Hello everyone, welcome to the solutions video for Selective Prep Mathematics test number 36. So before we get started, like every week, we're just going to take a quick look at a couple of topics that might have been a bit hard or could also have been a bit challenging in terms of managing your time. So the first of which is going to be calculating averages. So when we calculate averages, there's a couple of different ways they can ask you questions. They can give you a new mark and tell you to calculate a new average from an average you already had, pardon me, or they could also add in a new individual and ask you what mark do they need to get to increase the average by a certain amount, or retain the average, or decrease the average. Okay, so those are two main questions that they usually like to ask, although there are a couple more variations. And it's important to know, in any case, we always use the same equation. Although it's easy to think that you might need to do something else, always use the same equation for averages. So that's the sum of all the scores over divided by the total number of scores that there are. So if we take a look at an example question here, so that's our fraction line. Currently there's a class of 9, so the total number of scores is 9. And there's 9 students, they all get 80%. So the class average is 80% for now. Okay, and the thing is though that there's a new student called Mark who joins, and we don't know what his score is yet. We need to find that score, although we do know he's only one individual, so the total number of scores increases by 1. Okay, and the goal we're looking for is 82%. So 82%, 9 plus 1 is 10, so if we move that over, it's going to become 820, because we're multiplying them now. Divide becomes multiply when you move it to the other side, and 9 times 80 is 720. So 720 plus x equals 820, so x should just equal 100. Now, volume of the cone or pyramid, or just any object ending with a point, okay, is what we're going to go through in this slide. But more generally, before we start, is the volume of any given prism. It should say prism here. And the volume of it is V equals AH, where H is height and A is the area of the main face or shape. So for the cylinder, the main face is going to be a circle. For this rectangular prism, it's going to be this rectangle or square at the top. Okay, and in the case of a cone or a pyramid or a pointy shaped object, okay, or a pointy ending object, it has a corresponding prism. And what that means is that there's a prism with the same base shape and also the same height. And the base shape, for example, this cylinder has a circle, and this cone also has a circle. But the base shape has to be of the same area, otherwise it's not the corresponding, or it's not the matching prism. In the case that it is the matching prism, so it's got the same area and height, then the pointy shaped object, or the cone or the pyramid or whatever object you have, is going to be exactly 1/3 of the matching or corresponding prism. So for example, if this cylinder is 30 centimeters cubed, then this cone we know is going to be 10 centimeters cubed, because it's 1/3. Okay, and this is what we see in our two formulas here. So the volume of a cone is exactly 1/3 of the volume of a cylinder. The last thing we're going to look at is multiplying by fractions. So when we multiply by a fraction, it's always important to remember you should try and divide by the denominator before multiplying. Okay, or you should just try and divide in general before multiplying, because it lets you work in your head rather than trying to calculate everything. So dividing makes things smaller, easier to work with, as you can see in these steps. So if you see this question, we have 192. If you decide to divide it by 96 first, you get 2. If you decide to multiply it by 43, you get God knows what. Okay, even I can't do that off the top of my head, and hence it's a waste of time. And so we like to divide first if we can. Now, let's get straight into the questions. I'm aware I spent a few minutes on that already, on the overview already. So let's get straight into the questions. The area of a kite is just diagonals multiplied by half. So 6 times 4 times half should give you 12. So 24 times half. Now, question 2 is a perimeter question and also volume question. So perimeter is 168. So if you counted all the sides on the edge, it's 14 sides equals 168 centimeters. So one side equals 12 centimeters. So the volume of this cube is going to be side times side times side which is just 12 times 12 times 12. And if you do the maths, okay, or how I would break it up is do 12 times 12 first, equals 144, times another 12, and then do long multiplication, you should get 1,728 centimeters cubed. Question 3 is an average question. So Nicholas plays rugby, has played 7 games so far with an average of 26 scores in each game. And what he needs to do, so he's played 7 games, what he needs to do is play one last game and try to increase his average to 30. So we don't know what his score is going to be, we're trying to find that in his final game. We do know his final game is just worth one more game, so we're going to add 1 to the total number of scores, or the total number of games, and we know the goal is 30 points, okay, over the 8 games. And so 7 plus 1 is 8, move it over and multiply it, should give you 240. 7 times 26 should give you 182. So 182 plus x equals 240, so the difference is x. X should be 58. Okay, so 58 plus 182 gives you 240. Question 4 is a volume question. Volume of a cone is 1/3 of a cylinder. Okay, we went through this in the examples. It's just 1/3 pi r squared h. So 1/3 pi, they've taught us to approximate it as 3.14. R squared is 25. H is 10. Sorry, should say 10. So 1/3. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and multiply 10 and 3.14. I really want to get rid of that decimal. I don't want to use a decimal. Instead of 25, actually, I'm going to do times 100 divided by 4. So 25 is 100 divided by 4. And so I'm going to manipulate the equation and use that instead. Because I want to get rid of this decimal. And so I want to try and multiply it by a factor of 10 or 100. So 1/3 times 3,140. Okay, decimal point moves 2 to the right. So 3140 divided by 4. Okay, if you do the maths with 3140, I believe you should get 785. So 785 divided by 3, okay, because it's times 1/3. So 1 and 3 times 785 should give you, so 2, left over is 1, 6, okay, so it should be 260 something. Just from that, you know it's C already. But if you want to finish it off, 1 point something something something, so that gives you extra clarity. So 261 point something leaves you with only part C. That's how you save time again. Don't finish it off if you don't have to. Question 5, we know this side here is worth 60 centimeters, this side here is worth 40 centimeters. So half of it is going to be 20 centimeters, and then this half is going to be 30 centimeters. Sorry, we'll look at this half actually. So we know area of a triangle AEF is going to be base times height times half. So half times 20 times 30. So 20 times 30 is 600, times half should give you 300. Okay, part B, there you go. Question 6, so Mr. Toller travels to Melbourne, so Sydney to Melbourne, which is 480 kilometers, and then also comes back. Okay, and on the way there he travels at 60 kilometers per hour. On the way back, he travels at 80 kilometers per hour. So if you divide 480 by 60, okay, you get left over with 8. So it takes him 8 hours to get there. And then on the way back, it takes him 6 hours, because 480 divided by 80 is 6 hours. So altogether, 8 plus 6 should give you 14. Question 7 is a fractions question, slightly mixed in with a couple of degrees and angles, adds just a slight layer of complexity to it. Should be okay. We should be okay with it though. So we know the total number of degrees in a circle is 360, and we're looking at how much does Steve spend on clothes in a week. So he gets 2880 in a fortnight. We want to know how much he gets in a week though. So in a week, he makes half of this. So he makes 1440 in a week. And out of the circle, 25 degrees is on clothes. So 25 out of 360 is on clothes. If you divide top and bottom by 5, you get 5 over 72 as your simplified fraction. And so let's find out what 1/72 is first. So 1440 divided by 72 should give you, so 72 goes into 144 twice, and then goes into 0 times. Multiply that by 5, because we've got 5 of those, should give you 100. So 20 times 5 equals 100. Now question 8, we're using the same chart, slightly different question. So how much more does he spend on petrol than public transport? Well, petrol okay, he spends 75 degrees on. Public transport he spends 30 degrees on. So we're trying to find the difference. We don't need to find each one individually. We went through this in a different week, so you don't have to go through each one individually. Just find the difference and calculate the difference. That's how you save time. So 75 minus 300 over 360 equals 45 over 360. If you divide top and bottom by 45, you get 1 on 8. Okay, so 1 on 8. So let's calculate what 1/8 is of 2,880. So 8, so it goes into 28, 3 times 4, 6, 0. Okay, 360. Now, in a year, how many dollars does Steve spend on his own entertainment? Spends 20 degrees out of 360. Okay, that is 1 over 18. So let's see how much he spends in a fortnight first. So 2880 divided by 18 goes into that once. Leftover of 10. 18 goes into 108 6 times, I believe. So 6 and then 0. Okay, so he spends $160 on entertainment in 2 weeks, in a fortnight. So how many weeks are there in a year? 52. So we need to times this by 26. So 0, 6 times 0 is 0, 6 times 6 is 6. Carry the 3 to the top, 962, 0, 2, 6. And then carry the 1 to the top. So 2 times 1 should give you 2, plus 1 should give you 3. So spend 0, 6, 5, 1, 4, 5, 6, 0. Have I added something up wrong? Let me try that again. So 6 times 0 is 0, 6 times 6 is 6, carry the 3 to the top, 960, 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 6 is 2, okay, that's where I went wrong, so even I make silly mistakes. 2 times 1 is 1, 2 plus 1 is 3, so it should give you 4160, there you go. So make sure you double check your work, so even I make silly mistakes. When you double check things, you catch things out a lot quicker. Now, last couple of questions. So there's a triangle made of 4 smaller triangles, so that would look like this, and has a perimeter of 18. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides showing. So one side we know is 3 centimeters. Okay, 6 sides equals 18. Now find the perimeter of the largest triangle. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's 9 times 3 centimeters equals 27 centimeters. Part B. There you go. Question 11. Long question. So Zach decides to go up a mountain and then back down a different course on the same mountain, obviously. So on the way up, he averages 5 kilometers per hour. On the way down, he averages 45 kilometers per hour. Okay, when he's riding, basically he rides for 3 hours and he goes up for 1.5 hours, comes down for 1.5 hours. So we're going to calculate the distance first that he goes. So if he goes up for an hour and a half, he travels 7.5 kilometers. On the way down, he travels 45 times 1.5 is 67.5, I believe, because it's 22.5 plus 45. Yes, so when you add those together, you should get 75 kilometers in total. Okay, divide that by 3 hours, should give you 25 kilometers per hour. Okay, so he went 7.5 kilometers up, 67.5 kilometers down, and he did that in the span of 3 hours. So his overall average speed would have been 25 kilometers per hour if you divide top and bottom by 3. Now, final question. Oh, sorry, not final question. Oh, it is a final question. Never mind. Sorry about the confusion. So calculate the volume of the below shape in centimeters. So what we need to do is calculate the triangular prism minus the rectangular prism. So we can see very unclearly here that the sides of the rectangular prism are 1 and 1, and the height is 7 also. So first, calculate V equals AH. Okay, So V of the triangular prism equals A, which is 6 times 8 times half times 7. So that's going to be 24 times 7, which is, so 6 times 8 is 48, times half is 24. 24 times 7 is 148, I believe. No, 168. Now, V of the rectangular prism equals 1 times 1 times 7, that's just 7. Okay, so 168, hold on, I might have done the maths wrong again. 20, no, I haven't. 6 times 8, 48, divided by times half is 24, times 7, 140, plus 28 is 168. 1 times 1 times 7. Oh, sorry, that says 1 times 2. 1 times 2 times 7, so that should be 14. So 168 minus 14 equals 154. Sorry guys, it's been a bit of a confusing ride, but thanks for carrying through with me. So that is the solution to the last question. Just a couple of key points from the exam, from this test, is calculating the average. Use the same equation every time. Okay, sum of every score over total number of scores. Don't get too confused by the wording. Also, volume of pointy-ended objects, basically cones or pyramids, it's always a third of their corresponding prism. So it's got to have the same area of the base shape and the same height as well. Okay, it doesn't work either way. Otherwise. Okay, multiplying by fractions, divide by the denominator first if you can, and then multiply by the numerator. Why? Because we want simple numbers first. They're easier to work with, especially because we do not have calculators in this exam. Okay. Alright, good job everyone. It was a bit of a up and down ride. Hopefully you didn't get too confused, and I will speak to you next week. Okay, I won't be seeing you because you can't see me and I can't see you, so I'll speak to you guys next week. Hope you have a great rest of the week. See you later, guys.